So if you ask like a traditional career coach why you are completely burned out, they will almost always tell you it's because you're doing too much work.
Right. Yeah, they'll say you need to delegate more.
Exactly. They'll tell you to say no more often or, stop wearing so many
The
hats.
classic advice.
Yeah. But we're looking at this April 2026 breakdown of modern workplace psychology today, and it argues something entirely counterintuitive.
It really does.
It says that it's not the volume of the work that's destroying your cognitive battery by noon, it's actually the switch.
The switch. Yeah, that's the key.
So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are jumping into a truly fascinating piece of writing that finally puts into words this very specific, almost invisible type of modern exhaustion.
It's something so many people feel but can't quite articulate.
Totally. And whether you manage an office or run a household or juggle a side hustle, this concept is going to completely reframe how you look at your daily fatigue.
Because that whole cliche of wearing a lot of hats, I mean, it's been used as a corporate badge of honor for decades, right?
Oh, yeah, people love putting that on their resumes.
Exactly. They put it there to signal, like, I'm versatile, I'm a team player.
Yeah.
But the source we are analyzing today kind of strips away the romance of that phrase.
It really does. It gets pretty brutal.
Yeah, it exposes the relentless, instantaneous transitions between entirely different realities that this kind of work actually demands from you.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can really analyze the psychology behind the exhaustion, we need to look at the concrete, chaotic reality the author actually paints here.
Right, the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah. The piece gives us this snapshot of a single morning, just a few hours, and listen to the sequence. So the person starts their day doing payroll.
High stakes right out of the gate.
Right. And then immediately after, they run an onboarding meeting with a brand new client.
Huge shift in tone there.
Oh, totally. Then, after hanging up, they instantly pivot to troubleshooting why two critical software tools aren't communicating with each other.
Which is incredibly frustrating work.
Yeah, and from there, they jump right onto a high-stakes vendor negotiation call, and they have to go unstick some stalled internal project.
And this is all before lunch.
All before lunch. And get this, while this entire sequence is unfolding, they're fielding a constant barrage of random flyby messages.
The pings, the endless pings.
Yes. Things like, do you know where the Q3 budget document is? Or, hey, can someone approve this expense report real quick?
Just hearing that list read aloud
Eh.
induces a mild stress response, honestly.
I mean, my heart rate definitely went up.
Right. But the crucial thing to recognize here is not really the complexity of any single task.
Because none of those are impossible on their own, right?
Exactly. Any competent professional can learn to run payroll or, talk to a vendor or read a software manual. The underlying issue is, well, it's the mechanism that drains your mental battery.
Right.
It's the absolute absence of a buffer.
Yes. You hit submit on the payroll run, the little confirmation screen flashes, and less than 3 seconds later, the video conference chime rings for the new client onboarding.
There's no transition time.
None. There's no walk down the hall. There's no coffee break to just sort of reset your brain.
And your physical environment hasn't changed at all. You're just staring at the exact same monitor, sitting in the exact same chair.
Yeah, physically you're static.
But mentally,
Yeah.
you are crossing solar systems. You aren't just changing your schedule, you are fundamentally changing your cognitive mode, your risk tolerance, your communication style.
It's a huge psychological jolt.
Every single time. You're basically being asked to become a slightly different version of yourself over and over again without a single moment to load the new operating system.
So if the lack of a buffer is the match, the actual tasks themselves are the gasoline. Because we aren't just talking about moving from typing a memo to typing an email.
No, not at all.
We're talking about adopting entirely different brain states.
What's fascinating here is how the source breaks down the highly specific and honestly, often violently conflicting demands of each mode.
Yeah, let's break that down.
Let's re-examine that morning snapshot, starting with payroll.
Okay.
Payroll requires total focus, strict precision, zero margin for error.
Because if you mess up, someone can't pay rent.
Exactly. A misplaced decimal point impacts a real person immediately. So it's highly structured, quantitative work governed by very strict rules.
There is zero room for creative interpretation there. You don't brainstorm payroll.
No, please do not brainstorm payroll.
Right, it's binary. It's either completely right or disastrously wrong.
But then, in the blink of an eye, you switch to onboarding a new client. Or maybe offboarding a departing employee.
A completely different vibe.
Completely. Suddenly, the cognitive demand is entirely qualitative. It requires immense thoughtfulness, emotional intelligence, empathy.
You have to be on socially.
Right. For onboarding, you're actively shaping first impressions. You're projecting warmth. You're building trust.
And for offboarding, it's almost the opposite kind of delicate, right?
Exactly. You're managing a very delicate interpersonal dynamic. You have to ensure security protocols are followed while maintaining this dignified professional experience for the person leaving.
Yeah, if you brought the rigid binary mindset of payroll into an offboarding meeting.
It would be actively destructive. You'd come off as completely robotic and cold.
Okay, so the emotional labor is done. You hang up, and then boom, you are staring at a broken API integration between two software platforms.
Which requires yet another completely distinct cognitive state.
Right.
Troubleshooting systems demands deep structural problem solving. You need massive amounts of context. You essentially have to understand the invisible architecture of the business to isolate where a data connection just broke down.
It's like doing digital forensic work.
That's a great way to put it. And before you can even document the fix you just made, you're immediately on a vendor call.
And the rules change again.
Yep. Now you're reading the room, you're managing external leverage, negotiating terms, you're having to balance long-term relationship value against immediate financial costs.
You know, I was thinking about this sequence, and it really struck me how inadequate that whole wearing different hats metaphor actually is.
Because a hat is just passive.
Exactly. You just put a hat on your head, it's no big deal. A much more accurate comparison is it's like being forced to play entirely different sports back to back at a championship level.
I like that analogy.
Think about it. You start your morning doing payroll. That is archery.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
You're in a silent zone. You're controlling your breathing. You're aiming for total precision on this tiny little target. If you miss, it's a disaster.
Complete disaster.
But the moment you lease that arrow, suddenly you are on a rugby pitch. That's your vendor negotiation.
Chaos.
Pure chaos. It's a highly social contact sport where you are reading the defense, anticipating hits, balancing aggression with strategy right there on the fly.
Right.
And then the whistle blows, you walk off the pitch, and someone instantly locks you in an escape room.
The software troubleshooting.
Exactly. You have to find the hidden clues and decipher the broken code before the timer runs out. So it's archery, then rugby, then an escape room, all before lunch.
And the physical and mental posture required for archery is completely incompatible with rugby.
You'd get destroyed.
Right. If you bring the silent, rigid, hyper-focus of payroll onto a dynamic rugby pitch, you are going to get crushed.
Absolutely crushed.
And this ties into something the human brain experiences called attention residue.
Oh, attention residue. What is that?
Basically, when you switch from one complex task to another, a portion of your cognitive processing power remains stuck on the previous task.
Wait, really? So you're not fully present?
No, you aren't.
Yeah.
Your brain is essentially still processing the archery shot while a 250-pound rugby player is sprinting directly toward you.
Wow. That explains so much.
Yeah, shedding the previous mindset completely and adopting the new one in literal milliseconds requires a massive expenditure of metabolic energy.
So that's why the brain fog sets in so early in the day?
Exactly. You are constantly overriding your brain's natural transition period.
But honestly, looking at this playing devil's advocate here, isn't this just a classic case of bad boundary setting?
A lot of people would say that.
Because any executive coach would just look at this person's calendar and say, well, use the Eisenhower matrix. Block your time. Put your Slack status to do not disturb. And just ignore the flyby messages. Why wouldn't better time management solve this?
It sounds incredibly logical on paper, I'll give you that.
Right.
Standard corporate advice always dictates that you should prioritize the important over the urgent, right?
Right. Batch similar tasks together, push back on the rest.
Exactly. But the author makes a very explicit argument against this. Standard prioritization fails completely in this specific type of role.
Why, though?
Because it fundamentally misunderstands the geometry of the work.
Okay, what do you mean by the geometry of the work?
So traditional time management advice is designed for vertical structures.
Like a ladder.
Right. If you're in a siloed department, say graphic design, you can prioritize your design queue based on a clear, objective hierarchy dictated by your manager.
Sure, do the logo first, then the flyer.
Exactly. But the Gapula role operates horizontally. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author points out a profound truth about this position.
Which is?
Everything you are working on matters deeply to someone else's critical path.
Ah, so you don't have the luxury of arbitrarily deciding what matters most.
No. Because the collateral damage of dropping a task isn't contained to just you.
Wow, yeah.
Time management advice tells you to focus on your own priorities and deprioritize the rest. But you cannot simply deprioritize an employee's payroll.
Definitely not.
You cannot deprioritize a new client's first impression. You can't delay fixing the software that literally runs the daily operations of the sales team, or ignore the vendors that supply your core infrastructure.
So in these horizontal roles, you aren't really managing your own time at all. You're managing this complex, interconnected web of other people's absolute necessities.
Precisely.
Because if you drop the ball on any one of those things, a specific person or a specific critical system suffers immediately.
The sales team can't sell if the software is broken.
The employees can't pay their bills if payroll is delayed. You are essentially carrying the logistical weight of 5 different departments.
It's an immense amount of pressure.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Because you're constantly shifting to address everyone else's priorities across the entire company, you naturally become the center of the organization's universe.
You really do.
The author points out that these roles sit perfectly in the middle of everything. People, software, processes. You basically become the nexus.
And that central positioning creates a very specific phenomenon.
Yeah.
You become the ultimate go-to person for almost every single problem.
Which is exhausting in itself.
Absolutely. And this rarely happens because you officially own all these projects on paper.
Right. It's not like you're the official head of everything.
No, it happens organically. Because your unique, constantly shifting vantage point allows you to see how the entire ecosystem fits together.
Or, more accurately, how it doesn't fit together.
Exactly. You see the seams between the silos. In a standard vertical corporate structure, the marketing team only sees marketing problems. The finance team only sees finance problems.
I've got blinders on.
Right. But standing in the middle, you see the blind spots. You notice where things slow down. You recognize that a tiny, seemingly insignificant miscommunication between 2 departments today
Is going to blow up into a massive crisis 3 weeks from now.
Precisely.
Like, say sales promises a client a highly customized reporting dashboard. But because you also talk to operations, you know the software physically cannot deliver that kind of customization.
Exactly.
The 2 departments have no idea they're on a collision course, but you see it coming from a mile away.
And because you see the collision coming, human nature and professional responsibility compel you to step in.
You can't just let the car crash.
Right. You translate the sales promise into the operational reality. You find a workaround. Ultimately, you become the one filling the gaps between teams, between tools, and between expectations.
You become the glue.
Yes. The invisible glue holding the disparate parts of the business together, regardless of whether glue is written in your job description.
So what does this all mean for the person actually doing the work? I mean, how is this constant, frantic gap-filling actually experienced on a daily basis?
It's incredibly draining.
Because playing the role of organizational glue sounds vitally important, but the source suggests it's also strangely hidden.
Yeah, that is the ultimate paradox of this kind of horizontal work. Despite being the central hub holding everything together, the labor itself is profoundly invisible.
How so?
Well, when you're performing this job perfectly, when you're catching all the errors, smoothing all the transitions, and preemptively solving all the cross-departmental collisions, the resulting work environment is entirely quiet.
Quiet, because nothing is breaking.
Exactly. The business just moves forward. Nobody notices the disaster that didn't happen.
That makes total sense. Nobody throws a parade because a software integration didn't fail. Nobody sends a company-wide congratulatory email because you silently fixed a billing error before the client ever saw it.
It is the ultimate thankless metric.
Yeah.
You are being graded entirely on the absence of friction.
Wow.
But the second a gap isn't filled, the second that invisible glue gives way because your cognitive battery finally drained to zero,
It all falls apart.
it shows up immediately, and the fallout is intensely public.
The text lists out the cascading failures when that happens, and it honestly reads like a nightmare scenario.
Let's trace just one seemingly minor gap. Say you're overwhelmed with a vendor crisis, and you don't have the buffer time to properly offboard a departing employee.
Okay, seems like a minor administrative delay.
Exactly. But because that access isn't shut down immediately, the former employee's calendar sync remains active, which overwrites a critical client meeting link.
Oh, no.
Yes. The client gets frustrated, can't join the meeting, and threatens to pull their entire account. Suddenly, the entire executive team is demanding an explanation for a lost client, and it all stems from a missing 5-minute technical task.
And somehow, when the glue fails, all of these separate systems seem to break down at the exact same time. The payroll gets delayed, the new hire feels completely abandoned, the project stalls out, and suddenly all the sirens start blaring at once.
The contrast is jarring. Your success is defined by absolute silence, and your failure is defined by deafening sirens.
That's a rough way to live every day.
It is. Synthesizing all of this, the exhaustion isn't just about the sheer volume of tasks. Anyone can do a high volume of a single repetitive task.
Right, like assembling widgets on a line.
Exactly. The burnout stems from the relentless cognitive whiplash of context switching. It's the heavy burden of carrying other people's priorities and the immense pressure of maintaining a facade of seamless perfection so that the business remains blissfully quiet.
It requires a level of mental agility that is rarely recognized formally, but is absolutely essential for any modern system to actually function.
Essential.
Which brings us directly back to you, the person listening to this right now. Why dedicate an entire deep dive to unpacking this one specific blog post?
Because it applies to so many of us.
Exactly, because even if your official title isn't operations manager or chief of staff, almost everyone plays this gap filler role somewhere in their life.
Oh, for sure.
You might be managing the complex, conflicting schedules of a busy household, playing the roles of chef, chauffeur, accountant, and conflict mediator all before breakfast.
Talk about wearing hats.
Right. Or you might be leading a small, scrappy creative team where everyone has to constantly switch contexts. Or you might be running a side hustle where you are the visionary CEO and the customer service rep handling angry emails in the exact same hour.
It's all the same fundamental dynamic.
Yes. This exploration serves to validate that specific, hard-to-describe type of exhaustion. The cognitive whiplash is scientifically real.
The attention residue is real.
You aren't crazy, and you aren't just bad at time management. Some days are just going to be smoother than others, and as the author points out, managing that chaos is simply the nature of being the glue.
And this leaves us with a rather profound question to mull over as we wrap up today.
Let's hear it.
The text shows us quite clearly that these horizontal gap-filling roles rely heavily on deeply human intuition.
Right, the stuff you can't easily program.
Exactly. You have to read a room. You have to spot invisible interpersonal friction before it widens into a chasm. And you have to seamlessly shift from strict quantitative precision to deep qualitative empathy.
It's a crazy mix of skills.
It requires a synthesis of hard skills and soft skills that is incredibly difficult to codify. So as we move into a business landscape increasingly obsessed with automation, quantifiable metrics, artificial intelligence, and hyper-specialization, a major challenge emerges.
What's the challenge?
How will organizations ever learn to formally measure, accurately describe on a resume, a skill set that is entirely defined by what doesn't break?
Wow.
How do you measure the financial value of the quiet?
That is a question we're all going to have to figure out the answer to. Because until the corporate world learns how to quantify the glue, the people working backstage will just keep running, changing costumes in the dark, tearing at the Velcro, and making sure the show goes on without a hitch for everyone else.
Perfectly said.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep questioning the systems around you, keep exploring, and we will catch you next time.